Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to start with a video to do a quick test if there is a way to improve the engraving technique with Shaper Origin. When you use your Shaper Origin to engrave something, what happens sometimes is that the wood frays. Fraying means that when you engrave something in the wood, little pieces get torn out, and that can look pretty ugly. It's not really a problem of the shaper. Wood is not a perfect material, and so it has pieces that are more loose, and you have the fibers of the wood and everything. And so it can happen that wood breaks. That's normal. The question is there a technique that you can use to prevent this from happening or reduce the amount of where this happens? So my idea is to experiment with sanding sealer. I use sanding sealer a lot for my table projects. You sand your piece of wood up to 180 grits and then you apply sanding sealer. And what the sanding sealer does is it closes all wood pores, the entire grain, everything, and after an hour it's dry. And then you sand it away with 240 grit. And what this is for is to make it a lot smoother, because the sanding sealer closes all these wood pores, and then it is much smoother to the touch. But what it also does, sanding sealer, is obviously to stabilize the entire wood. And so my idea is, what if before engraving I apply sanding sealer to the surface, which stabilizes the surface. Then I do the engraving and then I sand it away. Does this have an effect on the engraving picture, on the amount of fraying that happens? And so this is pretty much what I'm going to try. So you see here I have a piece of wood and I'm sanding it up to 180 grit. That's when you can apply the sanding sealer. Then you see I apply the sanding sealer and I let it cure for an hour. Now I'm going to engrave the letter G on the piece that has sanding sealer and another time on a piece that has no sanding sealer. Now I'm removing the sanding sealer with 240 grits and we can compare both engraving.
Alright, so we can compare here the two different engravings, and before we start here, have in mind that there's always some effects that you have because of the wood and the location where you did the engraving. So a one-to-one comparison is always difficult. If we start here at the lower end of the G, you see that there's some fraying on this end. There seems to be a little bit less on the one with the sanding sealer. The same here on this fine detail here. You see that it's nicer here, there's less fraying. The rest here, when you go through this one, looks pretty similar. I don't think there's big differences here. You see on this side here that we have some fraying going on both versions. There is maybe a little bit less here, it's a little bit cleaner, and it's cleaner here too. You have here more stuff going on. Then here we have a piece that looks more ugly that we don't have with the sanding sealer. If we continue here, there's some fraying going on here, some fraying going on here. So I wouldn't say there's a big difference here. And then here, I would say it's also pretty similar. There's something weird going on here, but here too, so I would say it's kind of similar. And then we have here a piece that seems to be uglier, that on this end seems to be a little bit cleaner with a sanding sealer. We have the same here. We have some piece that is here that we don't have. Now here you see on this side, on both versions, there is some things going on here because it's really thin, this piece of wood here, because you're engraving on both sides, and so this gets really thin. And so it starts breaking apart on both sides. So the sanding sealer doesn't really help with that. It seems to be, for me, to look a little bit uglier on the sanding sealer side, but that might just be coincidence. We continue, it looks pretty clean on both versions. Here on this end, that looks a little bit cleaner, but not a lot. We continue here, pretty clean on both versions. When we look into this piece here, where obviously again it becomes really thin, the wood here, I think both versions are not super nice looking. I wouldn't claim that the sanding sealer version is a lot better, but it seems to be a little bit less fraying here than on the other version, but it's very similar. We continue down along here, it seems to be pretty similar, and then here some fraying is going on, but you see on the version with the sanding sealer, there's also some fraying going on, so not a huge difference here. And then we continue down along here, it seems to look pretty similar. So overall, I would claim to convince myself that the sanding sealer version is looking a little bit nicer, but I don't think it's a huge effect. It's a small one. So maybe not as game changer as I was hoping for, but a small improvement.
All right, that was it. That was my little experiment. Overall, I think the technique with sanding sealer is promising. You can improve the engraving a little bit. It's not massive, it's not like a huge effect, but it looks a little nicer. So I might start using this technique. Sanding sealer is not really expensive. I'll leave a couple of links in the description if you want to try out one. I hope you liked this little video. If you did, don't forget to give me your thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and see you around.